The President of the European Parliament says Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is welcome to participate in today's debate on the country's controversial emergency law. EU officials are expected to issue a statement on the impact last month's coronavirus legislation has had on fundamental rights in Hungary. Mr. Orbán says he can't attend the debate in person and wants to send his Justice Minister in his place, a request Mr. Sassoli has denied. MEPs previously declared Budapest's emergency law totally incompatible with European values. Well, let's find out a little bit more with our correspondent Shona Murray, who's in Dublin for us. Shona, morning to you. How did we get here, these exacerbated tensions between Brussels and Hungary? What's the sort of state of play right now?
Well, Rosie, we've gotten here really because of the past 10 years. Viktor Orbán has been accused of consistently and heavily chipping away at democracy in Hungary. Even 8 days ago, Freedom House, an NGO, said that Hungary can no longer be regarded as a democracy. But specifically, this debate today in the European Parliament is in relation to the emergency legislation Viktor Orbán imposed as part of the COVID-19 pandemic. Specifically, some of the draconian aspects of that around the fact that where, for example, people who are accused of spreading misinformation can be given up to 5 years in prison. And that has actually materialised. We've seen cases in Hungary, in particular one case of a 64-year-old man who was arrested at dawn for posting a Facebook post which was just critical of Viktor Orbán, and similar cases have happened for opposition politicians. So this debate today is really about the European Parliament and the European Commission saying that even though we're embroiled in this pandemic, we aren't forgetting the fact that we're very concerned about this legislation.
Hungary's foreign minister came on this programme and defended the legislation that was in place, and we'll expect that to be happening again. How much power, though, Shona, does Europe actually have when it comes to Hungary and Mr. Orbán and reining in some of that?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point because we know that all member states have imposed emergency legislation and some countries without a sunset clause. But there are concerns about Hungary specifically because of the jailing of people and because of the record that Viktor Orbán has. But you're right, the EU's response has been incredibly weak over the past 10 years and in relation to this, because there was an initial statement from Ursula von der Leyen, from the President of the European Commission, who didn't really even name Hungary in regard to this. So what there is a hope about is that eventually the EU can tie the EU's budget with ensuring that member states abide by the rule of law. And that is a discussion taking place. And I've spoken to Hungarian opposition politicians and members of the European Council who are saying that they hope that they will be able to tie this, which means in the future that Viktor Orbán will be tied to abiding by the rule of law eventually. Rosie.